Julia Alvarez. This book is available to everyone at all times if you have a Bryant Library card, because we have a digital book source called Hoopla, and every item on Hoopla is available to anyone at all times. There's no reserves, there's no holds. So if you have a Bryant card, or if your library also has Hoopla, you should be able to get this book, Afterlife, whenever you want it. Okay?
Will you mention that
and
next
so that
month?
would be, what did I say, June 30th.
And it's a combination of Hot Off the
that.
Presses and Hot Off
Today
the
it's
Press.
Writers and Lovers, and we're going to, I wanted to mention also, before I forget, this Hot Off the Press is always the last Tuesday of the month, but every week on Tuesdays at 1 o'clock, we've been holding a book swap, which is not exactly, it has evolved into more than a book swap. It's become a movie swap, a TV series swap. We just talk about what we're reading, what we're watching, what we like, what we don't like, and it's been great. And we would love to invite you all to come. You just go to our homepage at bryantlibrary.org and click on, right now it's called Book Swap, but we're thinking about changing the title so it more clearly reflects what we're doing. But right now it does say Book Swap, so please join us next Tuesday, 1 o'clock. Just go to our homepage and click on Book Swap. Okay.
It's going to start in 2 weeks.
Now we're going to.
Wait, Beth, can you hear? Can you hear
me?
Yeah. Okay.
Beth, can you hear me?
I don't hear you. Does anybody hear Julie?
I do.
Is it just me?
I think it's just you, Beth.
Oh, it's just me. Great.
I do. I hear you.
I just wanted to say the book swap is every Tuesday, except next Tuesday we're having a special function for our. Beth, can someone tell her to sign in and out? We're having a special function for our Winter Reading Club wrap-up. So the book swap won't be next Tuesday. It'll start on the 9th again. We'll resume on the 9th.
Can I say something?
I'm going to text Beth. Yeah, Linda, go ahead.
Okay, and I just want to tell you
come back in.
Yeah.
that next month on the 30th, that book will be a combination of Hot Off the Press and Book Talk with me. So it's not a lecture. It's more, it's more Hot Off the Presses.
What was that?
But it's a combination, is what I'm trying to say. Which is the way we've ended every year. We've been ending with a joint venture. So Afterlife is, is both of us.
Is Jason, whoever that is that somebody with a raised hand? Okay, it must be a mistake. All right, so Beth is signing off and coming back in again because she was probably having some technical problems. She'll be back in a second, but you can all hear me, right? Just nod. Okay. So thanks, Linda. Thanks, Beth, for the intro. I'm going to just give you a few Zoom reminders since that's the platform we're on. Okay. Wait, Rhoda, are you trying to say something?
I'm going to say, don't forget to tell them about the book to movie.
Oh, right. Okay, great. I'll do that. Thank you. I'm going to mute you again. Where'd you go? Okay. So Rhoda just mentioned every other Thursday, we're holding a book to movie discussion where you could either read the book or watch the movie or both. Both of them will be available on Hoopla, and you can join us for a discussion about which you liked better. We talk about aspects of the movie, aspects of the book, and our next book to movie discussion is not this Thursday. We had one last week of Bel Canto. Next Thursday, we're doing Room by Emma Donoghue. So you could either read or watch. They're both, again, like I said, available on Hoopla. So we hope you'll join us next Thursday at 4 o'clock, and we'll be sending out some reminders about that too. Anybody can join straight from our website. Okay, so I think those are our main announcements. So I'm just going to cover a few Zoom issues. So you're all muted right now. When it comes time that you want to make a comment or ask a question, you could either raise your hand, and I'll just tell you quickly how you do that. On the bottom of your screen, some people might have it on the top, but on my laptop, it's on the bottom. You see where there's an image of participants of 2 people, and it says participants, and it'll say how there's 60 people here. If you click on that, it'll show you everybody on the right side of your screen, all the names and the different numbers. And then there should be an icon on the bottom of all those names that says raise hand. So when you click on that, I can see on the side of my screen that you want to say something. If it's too complicated to do that, feel free to unmute yourself and say your comment, as long as it's during a lull in the conversation. We like to have respect for everybody else and their comments. So, you could tell when it's a good time to interject. That's that. Let me just see if there's anything else. If you have any trouble with the technology, try logging off and on again. Sometimes that helps. And you try to be mindful of your background. When you unmute yourself, try to make sure there aren't any TVs on, people near you, dogs barking, because it's extremely loud for everybody. Okay, so if you have any questions about these instructions, just if you know how to use the chat function, there's a little chat. If you look at the bottom of the screen, it says chat with a blurb. You can click on that, and then you can start typing on the right side, and you can ask a question. Okay, I hear. So let me see.
But he's unmuted.
I'm gonna mute everybody again. I don't know what happened. Okay, Beth, you're there, and I'm unmuting you. Beth, you can hear me now, right?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
and Linda, there you are. Okay, you're both.
Yes.
Linda and Beth are both unmuted. Okay, so I will give you a quick intro to the book, and then I'll hand it over to Beth. So I heard everybody talking in the beginning about Lily King's first book, Euphoria. So following that breakout success of that critically acclaimed and award-winning novel, Euphoria, Lily King returns with an unforgettable portrait of an artist as a young woman. Blindsided by her mother's sudden death and wrecked by a recent love affair, Casey Peabody has arrived in Massachusetts in the summer of 1997 without a plan. Her mail consists of wedding invitations and final notices from debt collectors. A former child golf prodigy, oh my gosh, a former child golf prodigy, she now waits tables in Harvard Square and rents a tiny moldy room at the side of a garage where she works on the novel she's been writing for 6 years. At 31, Casey is still clutching onto something nearly all her old friends have let go of: the determination to live a creative life. When she falls for two very different men at the same time, her world fractures even more. Casey's fight to fulfill her creative ambitions and balance the conflicting demands of art and life is challenged in ways that push her to the brink. Writers and Lovers follows Casey, a smart and achingly vulnerable protagonist, in the last days of a long youth, a time when every element of her life comes to a crisis. Written with King's trademark humor, heart, and intelligence, Writers and Lovers is a transfixing novel that explores the terrifying and exhilarating leap between the end of one phase of life and the beginning of another. Beth?
Okay. So I'm going to start off our discussion with a quote from the book. This is a quote from Casey when she's at her job interview for the school. And she writes, "I would want kids to talk and write about how the book makes them feel, what it reminded them of, if it changed their thoughts about anything. I'd have them keep a journal and have them free write after they read each assignment. That's what I'd want to know." So now I'm going to ask you, how did this book make you feel? And did it change any of your thoughts?
And I will keep a lookout for your raised hands, or if you just want to unmute yourself, you can do that too.
So how did the book make, what was your reaction to it? Was it what you expected? Was it, did it give you a lift? How did it make you feel? Anybody?
How did she make you feel? Did you find her an interesting, someone you could relate to, an evolving character? Because she's so central to the book. So adding on to what Beth is asking, how did this character make you feel? Were you impatient with her? Did you feel her pain? Did you understand her struggle?
I had a hard time getting into the book, but then I kind of understood the character a little bit more. And then it took me a while though to continue to read it. But once I got involved with the character, I had a lot of admiration for her. As you know, she was very determined, and she never let anything really get in her way. And her life was rough.
At what point did you start to care more about her?
When I sort of started to admire her determination, you know, she wouldn't let all her adversities stop her. So I guess I admired her for that. I don't know if I would have had the courage to do what she did with all her debts and loss of her mom. She had a lot of problems in her life that were probably would have driven anybody to drink.
I like the all the restaurant detail of being a waitress. I really enjoyed that, but I think that was something I didn't know. I mean, I very vaguely knew, and all the stress and the I really liked all that challenge just that she had with that. I liked other things too. I mean, I liked her challenges, but found that very interesting.
It certainly seems that Lily King was a waitress at some point in her life. I haven't read that anywhere, but she certainly seemed to know a lot about being a waitress.
Yeah, I think there was in one of the reviews that it seemed like she might have experienced similar things in her life.
Yes.
Sure, but
Yes.
so.
Lois has something she'd like to say.
There is Lois.
I unmute. Oh, wait, hold on. Wait, hold on, Lois, 1 second. I'm trying to unmute you, but doesn't seem to be working. Hold on.
Oh, wait.
Okay, there you go. There you go.
Okay. I had a different reaction than the woman who spoke a minute ago. I got into it immediately. I loved it. I thought it was a great book. I read it in a day and a half. It flew by. I love getting into the head of a writer who never misses an opportunity in any situation she's in to think, oh, that could be a line in the book. I thought it was really, it was a fun read, but it also, I thought, was very insightful, both into herself and her life and what it takes to be a writer. I thought it was really a good book.
Susan Kay also has her hand up. Susan? Oh, wait,
Muted.
Okay.
Should we unmute?
I'm afraid to do that. I'm trying to unmute her from here. I don't know why it's not working.
Susan, can you hear us? You have to unmute.
Hi, everybody.
There you go.
There she is.
Do you hear me now?
Yes.
There's no green line. Oh, now I see my green
See
line.
your green line. Yeah.
Well, I do think it seemed autobiographical, and I do think it is the portrait or self-portrait of a writer and the pains of becoming a writer and how much you have to, well, really sacrifice financially and how difficult it is to launch yourself. I thought it was okay. I thought it was interesting. I thought that it was, I thought that I almost found humorous is that she just likens herself to Proust or D.H. Lawrence in fact that they had lost their mother. Proust became suicidal and he felt that if he had killed himself, it would be like losing his mother again. And D.H. Lawrence apparently helped his mother to die because she was dying. And Virginia Woolf was 13 when she became suicidal. And I thought that was sort of like, wow, she's likening herself to these unbelievable writers. But I mean, it was interesting. It was interesting insofar as it is a struggle. It is a struggle to become a writer. And and most of her friends had already given it up, which I assume that is true of her friends, that they went on to other jobs, other professions that gave them more security. And she, was a person feeling her way. It was a coming of age story for someone who was maybe 30 or more. Yeah.
Just one bit of information. I think she was curious about other writers' relationships with their mothers, or I think that's what drew her. I'm not sure she, saw herself yet as Proust, but there was that curiosity that drew her to these stories that she could identify with in some way. But I think that what we see here in this portrayal is somebody who not only had recently lost her mother, but had felt a betrayal by her father, had just been jilted by a great love of her life. I mean, had a lot of baggage, and she had a lot of anxiety. And I do think that that was one of the more effective aspects of this character, is kind of getting into that head and understanding what it must be like. I mean, she was constantly on edge. She was feeling like she wanted to jump out of her body. And I imagine it's a product of this background that she had that we're privy to. So we do learn little by little what it was that she suffered. Probably not an uncommon story of, many writers.
I think she felt a great insecurity that she was now 31. She had started out on this artistic path when she was in her early 20s, when she graduated school, and she had a group of writers around her who were all dedicated and passionate about their writing, and slowly, one by one, they all dropped away to the realities of life, and she didn't. And I think that's the artistic struggle, and the fact that she kept trying spoke to her passion.
Seems to me that she was always running away. I mean, her mother deserted her. Her father was certainly not somebody to emulate. And she was in all these different countries with different people. And then here she is in this garage, and her life is difficult. I mean, it's amazing that she kept going on. She wrote, she had a job, she found two lovers, or she wanted them to be, but she always felt like she just didn't settle down and kind of grow up. I thought 31 was kind of old to be where she was as far as her relationships, but that's just my feeling. So, 31 years old, she's not just out of college or anything. She's been around, and she's had all this stuff that's gone on in her life. Her mother disappeared for a year and a half. So in a way, I was surprised she was so close to her mother. I realized she didn't have much of a father, or anybody she wanted to be close to. But that was just how I saw her. I mean, I think it was amazing that she continued writing, and look, it ended well for her. She had somebody she loved, a book being published, and she did all right, and ended up without her job at Iris, which is the other woman said, I don't know her name, was very interesting. The whole background of working as the waitress, and I liked that. Very interesting.
Thank you. We have a few hands up on the screen. The first person I would say is Lisa. I think you were first there. You're still muted. Hold on. Okay.
Okay, am I unmuted now?
Yes.
I agree that she seemed tremendously unmoored, but I don't feel like she was running away. I felt like she had the rug pulled out from under her over and over again, and that she didn't have any place to land herself. I mean, you say she's, like 31 is not that young, but it's not that old either. And a lot of young people in our world are finding themselves at 31, but usually not so desperately, because the people we tend to know have a lot of support from family, and they are not as alone as she is. And it's terrifying. I mean, that anxiety that she feels is, I mean, I felt it was really portrayed incredibly well. And every detail was so realistic to me. I worked in restaurants uh, every minute of that life in her restaurant was so realistic, and I just feel to me that that translated to what it's like to be in her body with the bees buzzing. You know, I just thought it was quite a tour de force myself.
Thank you. So then we have Susan K. and then Rhoda, I think, after that.
That iPad?
I'm going to unmute you, though. Hold on. Hold on, Susan. I don't know why it's so difficult to unmute here. No, it's not working. Wait, hold on.
You have to unmute yourself, I think.
No, okay, there you go. No, I can do it. I don't know why it didn't work before. Okay.
Okay. I'm looking for there's the green. So what we didn't address was the extreme trauma that she had in witnessing her father, you know, peak with the guys on the team. And then she abandoned the sport that he sort of had made sure that she, you know, did. And she like lost her scholarship and took out loans. I mean, she absolutely just flipped out, you know, and it was an extreme trauma for her. The other thing is the father rejected the brother because the brother was gay. So there was a lot of agony within the family, you know, that the mother abandoned the father and abandoned them basically because she had become religious and wanted to help this one person who was dying and drove him to Arizona. So there's a lot to deal with in her early years of trauma that she really had to process in addition to wanting to be a writer. So it was really not an easy path. And maybe the writing just gave her an outlet to express herself. And you know, the book that she becomes, you know, that she launches is the history of her mother's family in Cuba. So she is doing a history of the mother and of her, you know, the mother's family. So that, you know, finding her roots kind of thing, you know, sort of becoming more grounded.
Thank you.
That's the process of becoming a writer is coming to terms with her emotions, which she does successfully at the end when she pairs off with Silas and she has a job teaching and she's now a writer. So she does sort of heal herself.
Wait, I think Rhoda wanted to say something, Beth.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to say that with all that she went through, she never made herself a pity party. She was always
Just mended.
looking forward and always thinking, I will do it, and one sentence at a time, and so on. The only time where I thought she really was giving into pity was about the medical issue. Here she was, she needed attention, she had no coverage, and she really was very upset by that. But otherwise, I mean, her attitude with all of the negative things that happened, she persisted. She felt sad, she felt bad, but she never said, oh, I'm not going to forget about this. I'm just going to move on. And I really admired that stick-to-itiveness and positive attitudes, even during the worst times that she exhibited. I thought that was wonderful. And I loved the passage that that Beth read at the beginning about the way she would instruct the students. She did that. She took good out of every experience that she had, and she tried to take something positive away from it. That's the way I felt with the relationships with her friend, who was the only loyal person in her situation. I forget the friend's name. Yeah, other than her brother, who was not there for most of the book. But the self-reliance and the self-motivation was so admirable to me. I really loved that about her.
I just wanted to point out, I think Susan did a great job of recounting her ails, her problems, the problems in her life that she's had to face. And it reminded me of when she went to the psychiatrist and she says to him, I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm having these panic attacks. I don't know if I'm going to be able to handle any of the bigger things in the future. And he says to her, he lists all the things that you listed, Susan, that had gone wrong in her life. And he says to her, this, I don't know, my friend, he says, this is not nothing. And that is what, the only thing that the psychiatrist ever said to her that made her feel better. Somebody finally acknowledged that what happened in her life was not nothing.
Yeah. There's been a hand up on something that says iPad. So is there anyone who is speaking from an iPad who has their hand up?
I've had my hand up,
Oh.
Carrie, but it
Oh,
says
I'm sorry.
that's
Yeah.
okay. I think I saw her a little bit differently.
Me.
I really
Oh.
enjoyed. Can you hear me?
1 minute, Arlene.
Wait, I'm sorry.
Okay.
We have, I think,
We had
I
two
thought that I was next.
there was somebody that, iPad. Oh, so
iPad
that's,
is Arlene, I think.
oh, yes, yes. I'm sorry. You're first, Arlene. And then Terry, is that, you're second?
Arlene, then
Sorry,
Terry.
okay, go ahead. I've
Sorry
been
about
waiting
that.
for a long time. Okay, I'll close.
Arlene?
Okay, I'm on. You can hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I wanted to say that I thought the book turned out to be much, much more than I thought it was going to be. At the beginning, I said, this is a lot of nothing. And then I continued reading it, and I loved the development of her character. If Michelle Obama had not already taken the title Becoming, I think I would have used that for this book, because that's partly what it was about. And two quick points. One, she was a child prodigy with the golf, and her father really wanted her to do that. But this is what happens to a lot of people in life. They're very, very good at something, but their passion is something else. And this is what happened with her. Yes, she was good at that, but her passion was still to write. And the second thing that nobody has addressed yet is the two men in her life. I am very happy that she did not wind up with Oscar, because I think the author did a great job of showing that each of the two men, Oscar and Silas, neither one of them was who you thought they were at the beginning when she introduced their characters. And I thought she did a really good job with that.
Very good, I agree.
Me too. Thank you. All right, Terry, sorry about that. If you can unmute and. Wait, I'm looking for your name here so I can unmute you.
I'm unmuted.
Okay.
So I think I might have seen it a little bit differently. I saw her as an extremely capable person. Everything she did well, even including waiting on tables bigger than she expected. But I saw that she didn't have a whole lot of self-confidence. She really depended on other people to tell her, you can really do this, up until she even, when the last person who says, let me publish your book, and I can't remember what she said, what she told me. I think a lot of her confidence came out when she took the job as a teacher. So between the book finally getting published and the teacher, her self-confidence grew. And I really enjoyed the book, and I'm glad she ended up with Silas. So. Thank you.
Can I respond to that a little bit? I think this may really be a feminist book. When she walks into one of the book readings, she says she endures the condescending, egotistical, insecure men who wrote tender, poetic sentences that tried to hide the narcissism, misogyny of their stories. I mean, she was pretty, pointed in that direction, and she really even says nobody ever said to her, there's genius and someday your genius will show itself. But every man she meets tells her, I was told when I was young that one day my genius would be rewarded. I mean, she's living in a world that is clearly not female friendly. And I think that in some ways, even her choice of Silas over Oscar had a lot to do with that. Did anyone else see this as a kind of feminist novel? One that was really sort of exposing this man, Oscar, who comes back jealous and petty. And what was the expression, Rhoda?
Pity party.
Pity
Pity
party.
party, right. He was ready to have a pity party, and she didn't. She somehow held on and was fairly in control. I don't know if anyone else saw it that way, but that was, to me, it was very much a feminist novel.
She
Thank
was
you.
tired of the pity parties.
We have Victoria's hand up. Hey, Victoria.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, I'm trying to get my video to work on again. Sorry if you can't see me, but I love all your beautiful pictures behind everybody's backgrounds. Are you like in France and somebody's in San Francisco? I like this. I enjoyed the book a lot. I thought, well, I don't think there has been a book that I really haven't enjoyed for whatever, everyone has their own, each book has their own good qualities, bad qualities, whatever. But I like the fact that it was written in the first person too. I thought that added a lot of impact to it. And just going back to what Linda was saying, I think because of a lot of the trauma that she had with her mother and her father when she was growing up, it came through in the book, the way she was describing the female versus the male. Like right in the beginning, she mentions even just like the photos on the back of their the novels, the books that they have the pictures on, the men are always depicted as, stern and carved and strong, and the women have these apologetic smiles, and so she gives like these examples. And there was another one that I thought was very interesting when she was talking about how as women you get trained early to perceive others how they're perceiving you at the expense of what you yourself are feeling. And then she goes into this whole conversation with the men, how they have no control, they justify everything they do, and they get on with it, and they get approvals for it. So she keeps getting, like her father with the cake, he got a cake for being a peeping Tom in a little retirement party, or so it came throughout the whole book. So I thought that was really nice that she had that consistency, that how she felt really about her mother, about her father, kind of came through, and how she viewed men and women throughout the book. So I think, and even not only just how she specifically and literally described men and women, but when she was, for example, describing her moods, her moods came through the way she described in the book. Like she was talking about the river, when she was passing the river on her way home, how the banks were frothy white scum pushing against the reeds. Like there's so many ways to describe a river, and it could have been a beautiful river if it was somebody else looking at it, but the way her mood was, she described it as some frothy white scum that was pushing against reeds, and nothing, because I've been along that river too, and I thought it was a beautiful river, but I never thought of it that way. I guess depending on your mood, but I think as the author, she just did a really good job in explaining how she felt about men and women, men versus women, their roles and things like that, just based on how she grew up, and then also in her descriptive writing as well.
Thank you, Victoria. Go ahead, Beth.
Can I interrupt now to show the video?
Well, we just have one person who wants to say another question, Carol, and then after that, I would say probably. Yes.
Okay, great.
Okay, Carol, I just unmuted you.
Okay, I was just going to say, oh no, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I was just going to say the whole thing that we were just talking about with the men, that she really portrayed the men in a very unflattering light, each and every one of them. Whether it was the mature writer, he was very egotistical and insecure in his writing of needing this constant approval. Our young lover, it's a father. They were consistently not admirable people. And that's what I was just kind of talking about.
When he started with her relationship with Oscar, it kind of reminded me of relationships in the past when I was young, how you meet somebody and you see them as something.
Yeah.
And the more you get to know them, the cracks start to appear, and they eventually become who they are to you, not always favorably. But he started out as being sort of the answer to her problems. And then slowly she began to realize that it was that part where they're breaking up, and he says to her, "But we're so good together." He said, "I like me when I'm with you." And she said, "Well, that's not loving me, that's loving you." And I thought that was very realistic, that depiction of that whole relationship.
And she forgives her mother for leaving her for a year and a half. That's
Yeah.
kind of interesting because both of her parents, in a sense, betrayed her.
Yeah.
But she clearly was able to see past her mother and understand what her mother did. Of course, not her father.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm going to try. Interesting. I'm going to try to share my screen with everyone and play a 5-minute video of the author being interviewed. The author, by the way, let me just, is being interviewed by Paula McLean, who wrote Circling the Sun and The Paris Wife and Love in Ruins. This is produced by Prose and Politics, I think it's called, in Boston. And they have one author interviewing another author. So this is Paula McLean interviewing Lily King. And let me see if I can do it. Host disabled attendee screen sharing. Oops, host. Uh-oh.
Let me just take a quick look.
Julie's not letting me share it.
One person can share at a time. Huh, I don't know why it's not letting you.
Oh, gee. Did Deepa disable it?
I don't know. She made me the host. I'm the host now.
Right.
Advanced sharing options. Let me just take a quick look. One participant. Oh, here we go. I gotcha.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
It should work now. Yeah, it should work. Good?
I'm not sure. I don't think you, I see you. What do you see?
We still see the screen of people.
How about now?
Nope, still.
Writing things that I don't know, sort of thing. And
Well, I hear it. We don't see it.
You don't see it. How did we see it last when we tried it? Share. Wait, maybe this is it.
There you go.
Now? Oh, good.
You did it.
Yay.
But start over. Start a little bit.
Tech savvy. All right, let's start back. It's not the beginning of the interview because it's like a 45-minute interview. So I just picked a portion where she talked about how she came to write this book. Okay.
keep on going with the writing things that I don't know, sort of thing. And so my next idea was writing about a U.S. female soldier in Iraq. So I did a ton of research on that. I loved Euphoria because I loved all the research, and I love just learning and being in a world that was unfamiliar to me. And I loved going on book tour and having people not ask me how much of it was about yourself. Exactly. It was just so nice. My whole book tour was about Margaret Mead, not about me. And I loved that part about it too. And it was just really, it was like an adventure. And so I wanted to go on another adventure. And I started out, I did lots of research, and I got about a chapter and a half in, and it just like died on me. You know, it just wasn't, it wasn't alive. It wasn't alive. And so I had this other idea that I was very tempted by, and I started in on that. And that was about a male writer in 1902 traveling with his mother through Europe. And that actually, I mean, I did lots of research, many months of research, lots of notes, lots of ideas, a whole kind of outline-ish thing, and not really like, you know, blow by blow, but in general, lots of profiles of various characters. And I was really excited about it. And I got about 20 pages into that. And then my mom died very, very suddenly, on vacation, in very good health, in about 2 hours, you know, 2 phone calls, one saying that she was in a clinic and she would be fine, and then the next one saying that she had died. And that was a blow. I just, for whatever reason, I couldn't write fiction. I could never open up that notebook again. Like, that was over for me. That world, that life was gone. And I didn't really know what I would write, and I didn't write for months and months. I wrote in my journal, and you know, just was in a fog, you know, just a fog. And then one day I just saw this novel. I just knew that I wanted to write about a young woman trying to be a writer. And I for a long time I didn't know why I wanted that. And then recently I've started to realize that I think that time of that feeling so vulnerable by a death that happened so quickly and kind of being shaken by life, you know, to the core, was somehow echoed and was reminiscent of this other time in my life when I was, you know, in my late 20s and early 30s, and feeling very vulnerable in a different way to life and life's whims, and feeling very raw. And I think something about the two times, like we're talking to each other, and that time in my life when my life felt so uncertain, really came up to the surface in the form of this novel idea. And so that's sort of where it started. And
yeah. So it's so interesting to me, this idea that what you were working on before.
Okay, so I think we're going to stop there. It's a long interview, and we don't, you know, have that much time. But I was so touched by the description of her writing process, and her grief is, you know, visible even now as she talks about it. The whole writing process that she describes, the way she could no longer go back into a book, the way it just shut down for her, how her emotions and the two parts of her life that came together. I just thought it was such a wonderful description of the writing process, and a very vulnerable writer and artist.
It comes through in the book. It really does. Oh, Rhoda, okay. Let me just unmute you. Hold on one moment. Let me find you here. One sec. Okay. All right, you're good.
Tell her to start over.
About the metaphor of the geese. Geese are lifelong partners. They mate for life. They fly together, as you know. When one goose is hurt, another goose will leave the pattern and stay with the hurt goose until it can fly. And to me, along with her search for the writing, was a search for family. Mm-hmm. She wanted a family. Mm-hmm. And she was a hurt goose, and she was rescued.
That's very touching.
Yeah,
yes, it was.
You know, and the fact that she gives her mother's remains to the goose. I mean, at first it was like sort of horrifying to me, and then when I began to think about that whole issue, I realized what she was doing.
Eileen, did you want to say something? Let me just.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
It wasn't a major part of the book, but I think the fact that she had a friend was so important. And it was just a little bit of an undercurrent to everything else that was going on. But I think it was one of the things that was her salvation. Just like you said about the goose that would go and keep the other one company. She really depended on that friend who was always there for her. Right.
Okay. Yes, go ahead. There you go.
Yeah, they just have a number.
Yeah.
Thank you for showing me that video. That was really nice. That was
nice.
Yes, that was wonderful. Thank
really
you.
struck by that when I saw it.
I liked it a lot. Thank you. It made you understand a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That's nice.
Anybody else?
I don't see any hands up right now.
Yeah, Sharon Ross is there. She's having Mina and
Oh.
Sharon both have
Okay.
their.
Oh, Sharon. And Mina too? Okay, Sharon, then Mina.
Yeah, I think a young lady who spoke before me mentioned women, and it was her friend Muriel, who we really haven't given too much credit to, because she really was someone who was very helpful. She encouraged the writing, and I think she got her the introduction to go to to be a teacher at that school, if I'm not mistaken, which you saw that she really blossomed when she was asked to speak about writing. I think that was a really big turning point in the book. In addition, I think they speak about all her rejections, and I think there was one woman by the name of Jennifer who really pushed the book to be published, or
Agent.
Yeah. And so I think that there were these two people who really believed in her and was very helpful. And she did give Muriel her manuscript to look over. And so I think that that was a very female kind of, how shall we say, relationship, which she didn't have. I think she was one of the only strong people that were in her corner. And I think that is a very important part that no one really mentioned.
You're right.
Yeah. And then I don't see Mina, but can you hear me?
Mina? Should we?
I don't know where she is on the list here. Oh, Mina, here we go. I can unmute her. Mina, can you hear us?
Yeah, here I am.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, I thought she was very remarkably strong because she had so many rejections in her life. Not only her mother, who left her twice and then died, which is a third time. She had her father, who only supported her or liked her even as long as she was great in something special. And once that happened, and then with Silas or Luke, who rejects her. So the fact that she continued to write at 31 was also sort of her lifeline. It was the only thing that she had consistent in her life. And I think that sort of helped her. It sort of helped her escape from her real life. And it gave her an ambition and some purpose in her life. So I think you have to admire her that she came out with all these problems and she continued what she really wanted to do.
Yes, Linda, go ahead.
Well, two things. One is that she did not give the manuscript to Oscar. She knew right away that he wasn't trustworthy. But what about a lot of time was spent on the restaurant and on those kind of interesting kooky characters, the man with the cape and the mustache, and don't forget, the person who had an affair with David Byrne. What was her name? Hand?
Marcia Hand.
You're right. What role did that restaurant play in her life? I mean, it was hard work, but it was also a safe place for her, I think. I mean, she wouldn't have spent so much time on that if she didn't want us to see what effect it was having on Casey.
Right.
Bad and ugly.
I think it was her family, her substitute family. I think she was devastated when she was fired. As much as it was kind of a push for her, she recovered from a very bad series of events there with her illnesses and her being fired, and her life started to turn around at that point a little bit, I think.
I was really struck by when she would come to, something would happen in her life and she would want to tell her mother, and she would be ready to call her, and then she would be jolted back to reality. And
that got to me.
I don't know. I
said she wanted her mother to know she was all right. Then her mother would be worried about her.
Yeah.
But she couldn't tell her that she was all right.
Was her mother really that worried about her?
I think her mother was.
I do too.
You know, she didn't do the right thing as a mother. I can't explain why she left.
She followed that musician.
Followed that guy.
She fell in love with him.
She fell in love with him. Right. It wasn't just to take care of him. She was in love with him.
But then he had leukemia, and she did stay with him.
Which
But
wasn't
she's taking her daughter.
the right thing to do, but it's a human thing to do, I guess. Maybe she found her mother human.
She made a mistake.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting, if we go back to the geese, the book ends with the two of them, Silas and Casey, standing amidst the geese, and she kind of acknowledges that some will fly away, some will stay. And there is that sense. I mean, maybe her mother that was her nature. She had to go. She was someone who couldn't sit still,
Right.
but she's not that person. She's not her mother.
No.
And there was a sense that, because I thought that was an interesting metaphor or symbol that was recurring, and Rhoda mentioned it, but she ended with it. So it was very important. Yeah.
Because the, the book jacket is all geese. When you look at the book, the geese have a prominent.
Yeah, that's how it ended.
Prominent part in with the geese. Yeah, and I didn't really understand that until Rhoda explained it to me. Thank you, Rhoda. If I had to critique the book and come up with a criticism, I would say that there were too many peripheral characters. There were that you and I read that somebody else had this problem too. You didn't know who to invest your time in. I mean, Adam was there all through the book, and he was really why
yeah
there.
Mm.
I mean, there were lots of characters in the restaurant, and you didn't really know where they were going to reappear, and their significance in the long run. So that would be my only critique, I think, is that there were a lot of surrounding characters.
For such a short book, too. It wasn't a very long book.
Yeah. Yeah, and there were relationships that maybe she could have delved into a little bit more. For example, Muriel. I mean, Muriel was there all the time, but we didn't know a lot about Muriel.
No.
But that would be I thought it was a great book.
I did too. And now you see where all that vulnerability comes from with her mother actually dying like that.
Yeah. I'm sure it was a very cathartic book for her to write. It combined both of the painful and insecure periods of her life. As she said, yeah.
And the character used writing the same way. I mean, she wrote about her mother. It was a way for her to deal with the pain that she was feeling. Writing is that way. It's funny, as an English teacher, of course, I immediately took umbrage. Wait a minute, themes and symbols, they are important too. But I guess the most important thing is the connection. I mean, that philosophy of having kids free write, how did you feel? How did it make you feel? I mean, we've been doing that for a long time. It doesn't always build skills, but it certainly does connect them. And you do want to take them into the literature, not remove them from it and have them be these outside analysts, who are not connecting to the characters and the story. So I thought it was an interesting combination. And I bet you, I don't know about you, but I think she'd be a wonderful English teacher. I would have liked to have.
Seems like it, yes. Casey was.
That's what I'm talking about, Casey. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I meant.
You meant Lily.
Yeah, I thought Casey would be really a good English.
Well, just, you can tell sort of just by the way she related to the kids right away.
Yeah.
We have
talked to them.
I have two more questions. I have Lisa Trecco and then Susan Kay.
Okay.
Lisa?
Well, going back to the issue of her mother leaving and what kind of mother does that. And I was pretty angry at her mother for doing that. I felt it was very selfish to run off for whatever reason. But as we're talking, I'm realizing that she was married to that awful, awful man. And although Casey didn't know how awful he was until that revelation, you can't be married to someone, I don't think, and not have a sense of of something being that wrong. So that relationship was probably not really a relationship for a really long time.
Yeah.
So it's just something I was thinking about.
Yeah.
Susan, I couldn't unmute you, Susan, if you could do it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
I was just responding. I would just like to respond to Beth's comment. I think the fact that that she had so many peripheral relationships made her still seem youthful. That she was like a collegiate person. The way kids sort of have friends here, they have friends there, and that's sort of what it reminded me of. You know, she has this group, she has that group. Her brother, and the brother changes partners. It had a very, well, not quite adolescent, but more like a college atmosphere that she had moved on since college. That's sort of what I felt it created.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah. I agree.
Okay.
Oh, that's what I'm saying to me.
All right. Well, if nobody else.
Oh wait, Rhoda's raising her hand, I think.
Not really about the book, but about the setting. She really gets Boston and university life. And I mean, my granddaughter is there now. Hopefully she'll go back soon. Who knows? But anyway, the bridges and the kids going back and across, and the Harvard people as opposed to the Boston people and so on. I thought she did a great job on setting, and the people in the restaurants too, the snobs and the regular people and the families. It was a slice of life. I think she was showing us a slice of life, and she really got Boston.
And speaking of which, behind me, my background is the bridge. It's purposely the bridge that she would cross, just so you guys could see it. You know how we used to decorate in the room at the library? So we're trying to do a little bit of it here with our costumes and our background.
Oh, that's nice.
Except for me, I did San
tried to have a
Francisco.
restaurant, but I couldn't work.
We tried today.
Linda's in San Francisco.
I'm in San Francisco. I'm nowhere near.
It must fit in somewhere.
That's funny.
We didn't mention at all the little boys before we break up here. What did you think of those little boys? I thought they were adorable.
Yeah.
Children.
I thought they were too. I was upset though that he introduced her to them and had her so involved, and you know, without really understanding the relationship.
Yeah, all of a sudden she was going to be gone, and they had gotten pretty attached to her.
Yeah, it felt sad for them.
But they were also an attraction for her. I think
Family.
Yes, that realized family. I think it was harder for her to leave them than it was to leave Oscar.
Yes, Eileen, I'm gonna unmute you if I could just find your name in the. Here we are.
I think I'm on.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't think he ever expected that she wouldn't want him hook, line, and sinker. He was so into himself.
Yes.
He really thought she was going to stick around.
You know what else was interesting was the way she wouldn't read his, she wouldn't read any of his books. And she wouldn't read Silas's book work either, right? Wasn't that it?
Oh, yeah. I thought that was so interesting.
Yes, I did too. And I understand it.
Yeah.
Although I could probably run out immediately and get every copy. But I admire her restraint because I think she didn't want to know. She didn't want to know if she wasn't going to like it or if it revealed something about them that she didn't want to know. It was a self-protection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was about handling grief too, because each of the main characters were grieving.
Right.
Silas was grieving about a sister,
right.
And Oscar's children were grieving the loss of a mother, as was her brother grieving with her. And I think the one that she rented the apartment for, he was like the obstacle. No, you can't. You're really not a writer. What do you, yeah, you're a writer.
Nothing to say.
And it was almost like in spite of him, that was a motivation for her to, you know, pursue and keep going.
Right. Good point. That's a good point.
Yeah.
All right. Well.
Do we want to, oh, Judy, wait, hold on.
Yeah, okay. I wanted to come back to Oscar for a moment. His house, I mean, it was so unreal. It was like a movie set. And that was kind of an indication that, was he real? Was he acting? Was he a sincere person? Or did he create this whole phony scenario where his kids fit in, and they were, I guess they were believable, but a little too precocious.
Too cute. They were too cute, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point. And also, when he comes home, he's jealous. He's jealous that they've had too much fun without him. And it is as if he wants to create a scenario, as if he wants to control, you know, all the people in his lives. And that's why he didn't get it, that this might not work out. He saw this as a relationship that was going to fill a need in him and give his children a mother. He had no idea.
Yeah. Well, it is after 1.
Two.
Two.
Should we vote on the book?
How do we do that? Did we do that last time?
I don't know. Actually, I can't remember. It was a long time ago.
Do it with a chat.
Count.
But we can't see everybody all at once.
But you can do it with a chat, maybe.
Oh, could we do that? Let's try
You
it.
can do it by raising hands. You
That's
can do it
true.
You
All
can't
right.
see us all.
All right, so now I see 2 pages of people, so I could probably do it that way.
All right. So, well, let's see how it goes. How many people would give this book a 5? I think I might. Okay, nobody, right?
No,
Well,
one.
there's one. I saw
One.
Lisa and Peter Lesser.
Okay.
And let me look at the next page. Were there any 5s? And Isabel said 5. Okay. But that's it, it looks like.
Okay, so that's 2. How many would give it a 4?
All right. Yikes.
Here we go. Here's problems.
Let me see the next page. But not everybody has their video on. It looks like a lot of 4s.
All right, without counting, let's see. Let's do an eye count. How about 3?
I think it's 4 now. I think there are more 4s than 3s. Yeah,
4.
definitely.
Okay. All right.
Whew.
4.
Yeah.
The challenges of Zoom.
Yes. Trying to adapt is not easy sometimes.
You're great.
Beth, in between when you were signing in an offer in the beginning, I mentioned our book to movie to the group. So hopefully we'll have some visitors next Thursday.
Next Thursday, it's Room, which we did do as hot off the press many years ago now. How
Well,
old?
how do you get the movie? We used to be able to rent the movie from the library.
It's on Hoopla.
Oh, the movie's on Hoopla?
Movie and the book. That's why we're trying to choose things from Hoopla so that everybody can get them. So you can watch the movie. The movie might be on other platforms too. It might be on Netflix, might be on Prime. I don't know.
Yeah.
But we do know it's available on Hoopla.
You can watch it on a laptop, or if you have a Fire Stick, you can watch it on your smart TV or through the Fire Stick.
What do? You rent it like you're renting a book? Is that how it works?
Yeah, you check it out. Did you ever create an account in Hoopla?
Yeah, I've been getting books from Hoopla.
Oh, so just go search Room and under movies, and you just borrow it, and it'll be in your information. It'll be there with your books.
Is that going to be for this Thursday or the Thursday after?
The following Thursday.
Yeah. Okay.
We're going to start publicizing it this week.
This Thursday, we're playing bingo.
Oh, yeah. Book bingo.
Book bingo. If anybody is interested in playing bingo, you just go to our website. You just have to register for it because we have to send you a bingo card.
It'll be Thursday at 4 also.
guys
So
are
alternating weeks, we'll do a
Doing
book
kind of a
bingo.
game thing and then a book thing. So we hope to see you. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Yes.
We enjoyed it as usual.
Hope to see you maybe Tuesday also. Okay. Have a great week.
Okay, you too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.